Hi guys! In this part of the course we'll be modeling all the clothes and the accessories. Let's get started. First we'll make the sweater. To get the geometry for the sweater, we'll use a copy of the body mesh. While in object mode, select the body and press Shift D to duplicate it. Now we have a copy of the body. Select it and then press slash on your keyboard. This isolates the selected object in the viewport. Now press Tab and go into edit mode. Press free for face selection and turn on X-ray from up here. Shift select all these faces. Then add these faces to the selection as well. Nice! Now with all of those faces selected, go up here and from Select, choose Invert. This inverts your selection. Then press X and choose Faces to delete the selected faces. Nice! That leaves us with the base of the sweater. Press A to select all of the faces and then press Alt S to scale them up along the normals. We do this so the sweater doesn't clip the body. Now press slash on your keyboard to make all the other objects visible again. If I turn off X-ray now, you can see that the base of the sweater is all good and it doesn't clip anywhere. Now what we want to do is adjust the shape of the sweater by moving the vertices. Press numpad 1 for front view and then press 1 for vertice selection. Turn on X-ray from up here. Now let's just straighten the loops on the torso. Select these bottom vertices and press S, Z and 0 to straighten them. Straightening loops like this is good practice so your models are nice and tidy. Do the same for the other torso vertices. Select each row and then press S, Z and 0 to straighten them. Now we're going to start shaping the sweater. Select these vertices on the side here. Then from this button, turn on proportional editing. Now when you move the selected vertices, the area around them will move as well. You can scroll up or down on your mouse to increase or decrease the area proportional editing effects. Now press G and X to move the vertices out a bit. Select the top vertices and then press G and X again to move them out. We're just trying to get a nice curved shape to match the reference. Here on the bottom you can bring these in a bit with G and X as well. Nice, that's looking good now. Let's move on to the sleeve. With proportional editing still turned on, select these vertices. Press S to scale the vertices and the surrounding area up. Here you can press 2 for edge selection and then scale each loop up to get a nice smooth shape. Scale these loops so the angle between them isn't sharp and they have a nice smooth transition between them. We also want to move them apart with G so they're as evenly spaced as possible. Nice, that's looking better. After this, press 1 to go into vertice selection. Select these vertices and move them with G and X to match the length of the sleeve on the reference. Here I'm just selecting the end loop and making sure it's nice and tight around the wrist. I do this by scaling it down with S. After this, I go in and scale the loops around the shoulders. I select each loop and press Alt S to scale it down. I do this so I can more closely match the reference. Because we have so many loops close together here, this area will need a bit more adjusting. Press 2 for edge selection. Scale each loop down a bit with S until you have a nice smooth transition. Here we can actually remove one of these edges because they're a bit too dense in this area. To remove the edge, double click it, then right click and choose Dissolve Edges. Typically with your models, you should aim to have similar polygon density in each area. So what that means is your polygon should be a similar size all across your model. In some areas where you have a lot of deformation though, it does help to have some more edge loops. So it's okay to have more edge loops around the knees, shoulders, as long as you don't overdo it. This will later on make deformation much smoother once your model is rigged. After this, press 1 and continue adjusting the silhouette of the sweater. Match it as closely as you can to the reference. Now let's adjust the side view. Press numpad 3 for side view. Select the sweater and press tab to go into edit mode. With X-ray turned on, select the scroll vertices. Press S and Y to scale them up in the Y-axis. Match the width of these to the reference. Then select this next row. Press S and Y again to scale it up. Select the bottom row of vertices here and then press S and Y to scale it up as well. Do the same for these top vertices on the torso as well. Adjusting the vertices with G so you can more closely match the reference. Here on the bottom, we'll add one more loop to achieve the nice curve that we have in the reference. To do that, press Ctrl R and add a loop here. After that, select all the vertices on the new loop and scale it up with S. Continue adjusting the shape until it looks smooth. Here the shoulders turned out a bit too bumpy. This happened because we scaled the loops individually. Let me show you how you can easily fix that if you ever find that your loops have gotten a bit bumpy when you've scaled them up. So instead of going in and manually trying to fix each loop, what you can do instead is delete some of the loops in between here and then reinsert them where needed. Let's do that now. Press 2 for edge selection and double click this loop. Then right click and choose Dissolve Edges. That already removes some of the bumpiness. After that, you can double click on this neighboring loop and move it in with G and X. When you go into object mode now, you can see that some of the bumpiness has been fixed. Now let's fix the remaining bumpiness. Press tab again and go into edit mode. Double click to select this edge here. It's the one causing more bumpiness. Right click it and choose Dissolve Edges to remove it. After that, press Ctrl R and add an edge where the old one was. This new edge won't be bumpy anymore and will add some extra resolution to the shoulder area. Nice, now when we go into object mode, you can see that there's no more bumpiness on our model. So what I wanted to show you is that if you have areas that are a bit uneven, you can delete the edges in between and then reinsert them with Ctrl R. Next, we'll make the collar and bottom elastic on the sweater. Select the sweater and press tab to go into edit mode. Press 3 for face selection. Select these two rows of faces. Press X and choose faces to delete them. This opens up a bigger area for the collar. Now press 2 for edge selection. Double click on the neck opening to select it. Press E to extrude the edge loop and then S to scale up the extrusion. After that, press E and Z to extrude upwards. Click to accept the extrusion. Then press E again to extrude and S to scale the new extrusion inwards. Click to accept the extrusion. And one last time, press E and Z to extrude downwards. Click to accept the extrusion. Scale this loop down so it's a bit closer to the base of the neck. Nice, now we have the base of the collar and we just need to shape it a bit nicer. Press Ctrl R and add a new loop to the middle here. Press S to scale the new loop up. Here I'm just pressing 1 and adjusting these front vertices because they've become too wonky. I move them in with G and X. After this, press 2 for edge selection. Shift select all of these collar edge loops. After that, move them in with G and scale them down with S. We're just aiming to make the collar a bit smaller here. Awesome, we'll finish that up in a bit, but so far it's looking better. Now let's block out the elastic bands on the sleeve and the torso. Double click on the sleeve end loop to select it. Press E to extrude the edge loop and then S to scale up the extrusion. Click to accept the extrusion. After that, press E and X again to extrude in the X-axis. Click to accept the extrusion. Then press E again to extrude and then scale this new extrusion inwards. Now let's do the bottom elastic. Double click on the end loop to select it. Press E to extrude it and then S to scale up the extrusion. Click to accept the extrusion. After that, press E and Z to extrude downwards. Then press E again to extrude and S to scale the extrusion inwards. Click again to accept the extrusion. As a side note, what you can do here to finish these edges off is to extrude them inwards one more time, so you can have them going in like this. This way the edge will be nice and finished. On mine I just left them open, but it's good practice to finish the open ends on clothes. Nice, now that we have the base for the sweater down, we can finish it off by fixing some problem areas. For example, this here on the back curves inwards because we made the base of the sweater from the body. To fix it, press 1 for vertice selection. Select the problem vertices on the back and pull them out with G and Y. Nice, that's looking okay so far, but it still needs some shaping. What I want to do next is harden the transition between the sweater and the elasticated parts. To do that, press Tab and go into Edit mode. Add some more loops close to the base of each elastic band. Do that by pressing Ctrl R. Add one here on the bottom, one around the sleeve, and one around the neck as well. That hardens the transition here a bit more. Now let's fix the neckband shape a bit more. Select these vertices and scale them up with S. Then select these top vertices and scale them down with S again. Move them towards the neck with G. Next, press 2 for edge selection mode. This middle edge I made too big, so I'm just scaling it back down with S. The last thing we want to fix is the sort of square shape on the neckline. Let's do that now. Shift select these edges. Then move them out with G and X. Move these middle ones out a bit more with G and X again. Let's do the same on the back. Select these edges and move them out with G and Y. Nice, that looks a bit less square now. The finishing touches for the sweater we'll save for later, and now we'll move on to modeling the shorts and the socks. Once again, we'll use the original body geo as a starting point. Press Tab and go into Object Mode. Select the body geo and press Shift D to duplicate it. With the duplicated body selected, press Shift and click on the reference to select it as well. Now press Slash to isolate the selected objects. Then press numpad 1 for front view. Press Tab and go into Edit Mode. Here we want to make a new loop where the shorts end. To do that, press Ctrl R and add a loop here. Now let's select all the faces that we need for the shorts and the socks. Turn on X-ray from up here and then press free for face selection. Shift select all of these faces. After you have all the faces selected, go into this select menu and choose Inverse. This inverts the selection. Then press X and choose Faces to delete the selected faces. That leaves you with only the geometry for the shorts and the socks. Press Slash again to unhide all the objects in the scene. Turn off X-ray. Press A to select all the faces on the shorts and the socks, and then press Alt S to scale the selected faces along the normals. That fixes any clipping with the body. Nice, now let's add some thickness to these clothes. Press Tab and go into Object Mode. With the object selected, go into Modify Properties and add the Solidify modifier. In here, set the value to -0.02. That adds some thickness to the outside of the clothes. To fix the normals, go into Object Data Properties here, and from Normals, turn on Auto Smooth. That fixes the shading on the models. Next, we're going to make the shoes. To do that, we'll use yet another copy of the body geometry. Press Tab and go into Object Mode. Select the body and press Shift D to duplicate it. Then Shift select the reference plane. Press Slash to isolate the selected objects. Now we'll select the faces we need for the boots and delete the rest. Press Tab and go into Edit Mode. Turn on X-ray. Drag select these faces here. After that, go into the select menu here and choose Invert. Then press X and choose Faces to delete the selected faces. Now all we have left is some geometry for the boots. Press Slash to exit isolation mode. Select all the faces for the boot by pressing A. After that, press Alt S to scale them along the normals. Now let's shape the boot. Press numpad 1 for front view. Press 1 for vertices selection. Select this top row of vertices. Flatten them by pressing S, Z, and 0. Then move them up with G and Z. Scale these bottom rows of vertices up a little bit as well. Now let's shape the front of the boot. Press numpad 3 for side view. Select these vertices on the front here. Scale them down in the Z-axis by pressing S and Z. Move them a bit forward with G and Y. After this, press 2 for edge selection. Double click to select this loop and scale it down by pressing S and Z. Move it down with G and Z. Scale down the one behind it as well. Now you just want to move these all down so they line up on the bottom. Continue adjusting until the shape is nice and smooth. Now we're going to scale down the foot and sock down the same way so they fit into the shoe. Press Tab and go into Object Mode. While in Object Mode, Shift select the body and sock geometry. Then press Tab and go into Edit Mode. Select the front vertices on both models and scale them down in the Z-axis by pressing S and Z. Move the vertices forward with G and Y. Adjust the rows of vertices on the back as well. You just want to scale these down in the Z-axis as well. Ultimately, you just want the sock and foot to be able to fit inside of the shoe without clipping anything. Nice, all done with that. Now let's further adjust the shape of the shoes. Press Tab and go into Object Mode. Select the shoes. Press Tab and go into Edit Mode. After that, turn on X-Ray and select all the vertices on the bottom. Press S, Z and 0 to flatten these. That makes the shoe nice and flat on the bottom. Next, let's make the front of the foot, sock and boots sharper. While in Object Mode, Shift select the body, socks and shoes. Then press Tab and go into Edit Mode. Turn on X-Ray. Press 1 for vertice selection. Select these front vertices. Turn on proportional editing from this button here. Finally, press S and X to scale the vertices in the X-axis. Here you can scroll down on your mouse if you want to decrease the area that proportional editing affects. After this, grab the very front vertices on the shoe. Scale those in with S and X as well. That makes the front of the shoe nice and pointy. After that, press Tab and go into Object Mode. That's looking good so far. Next, let's add a Solidify modifier to the shoes. Select the shoes object and go into Modifier Properties here. From Add Modifier, add a Solidify modifier. In thickness, put in a value of 0.04. The shoes are now done. Next, we'll make some accessories and then add some finishing touches to all our models. After that, we'll be done with modeling. Next, let's add a little circular shape on top of the hat. To do that, press Shift A and add a round cube to your scene. Right-click it and choose Shade Smooth. Move it up with G and Z. Scale it down with S. After that, press Tab and go into Edit Mode. Turn on X-Ray. Press Free for face selection and then select the bottom half of the cube. Then press X and choose Faces to delete the bottom faces. After that, position the cube on the hat here with G and Z and G and Y. You just want it to be somewhere in the middle. Now let's add the hair colors. Press Tab and go into Object Mode. Press Shift A and add a torus. Decrease the major segments here from 48 to 24. That makes the object a bit more low poly. Then right click the torus and choose Shade Smooth. After that, scale it down with S and position it at the base of the ponytail with G. In a little bit, we're going to adjust the strands so they actually go inside of the hair tie. Before we do that though, let's mirror the hair tie. While in object mode, select the hair tie, press Ctrl A, and then choose All Transforms. This zeroes out all the transforms on the object. Now we can mirror it. Select the hair tie and go into Modify Properties. Add a mirror modifier. After that, press Tab and go into edit mode again. Place the hair tie flush against the head with G. Here you want to rotate the camera around to make sure there isn't any gaps between the hair tie and the head. After you're happy with it, press Tab and go into object mode. Now we will adjust the hair strands a little bit so they can fit inside of the hair tie. Because the hair still curves, it can easily be adjusted. Select the strands and press Tab to go into edit mode. Select this first strand and rotate it with R. You just want it to fit inside of the hair tie. After that, select the end point here and move it in with G. Scale the second point down with Alt and S so it doesn't clip the hair tie. Continue adjusting the strands on both sides so they're inside of the hair tie and they don't clip it. So use G to move individual points and rotate the strands around if you need to. Nice, that's looking better. Once I'm done with that, I'm just moving on to some final tweaks. Here I'm just further adjusting the sweater areas that we tweaked before. I make sure that there's no indent on the back on the middle here. I then also round off the collar a bit more. Next, we're going to adjust the shape of the collar with the sculpt tools. Press Tab and go into object mode. Then press Tab and go into sculpt mode. Press T and select the grab brush from the side menu.